So
Oh,
Questioning. I know the answer. You just never know the questioning.
Hello, people. Welcome to another
Hello,
class.
sir.
All right. Okay. Yes, I see that we are still alive and well, and I can see that my class has returned to me. Somebody borrowed the class last week. Either that or the students went on vacation for a week. But now you're back. I know it wasn't a fun vacation, so let me just take a random participant. Evelyn, are you here?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
How did your creek go?
Excellent.
Excellent. Wow.
It was really, it was really good, sir.
It was good.
It was really good.
All right.
Yes.
All right, cool. I'm sure everybody had varying experiences with crit. But whatever it is, I'm glad to have sacrificed some time to your success. Right? So,
Yes.
all right. So, what y'all was supposed to do was to you all were to do the exercise 3 on your own, right? And I did post the video. I did post the video, right, guys? Of course I did. I think I did. Oh, let's share. Right. So if we head over to, let's see. Right. If we head over to class recordings.
So it's getting blurry.
Yes, it might be blurry because of your connection speed. Hang on. Okay, should be sharper now. Change my mouse pointer size so that you can see my mouse. Let's make it blue. There we go. Nice and bright. All right, so DDM and right. So this was the exercise that you were to accomplish. Gifford, how was your exercise? How was your experience doing this exercise?
It was all right, sir.
It was all right.
Yeah, man.
All right. What about
Sir.
Swaby? Uh-huh.
Sorry, sir. I had
No
an
problem.
issue. I think I wrote a note in the when I submitted the exercise. I
Oh,
couldn't. The rotate tool was not working. I don't know. It looked blocked. So I'm not sure why.
the rotate tool.
And the scale, it wasn't working either. It wasn't making it. It was just not working. I don't know. I tried to watch many videos,
And it
but
did.
I still did it. But the lines are in the wrong direction because I couldn't rotate them and I couldn't make them bigger either, or even more of them.
Okay.
So
Okay, but you still survived it though.
yeah. All right, yes.
All right. Well, this was just a quick kind of whet your appetite for Illustrator. One second. Right. So it was just a kind of whet your appetite. Yeah, Gifford.
Oh, yes, sir, I don't understand, but I upload this assignment, but for some of the other assignments, especially 3D CAD, when I try to upload the assignment, it's just not moving from zero.
Oh,
Yeah,
um,
I don't know.
are
I
you
just haven't
getting
had
it?
the time to address it.
You getting any error messages?
No, it
It's
just
just stuck.
staying at zero. Yeah.
All right. If you're doing it, it might be. I don't know. I think maybe in the background, maybe Google have some kind of limitation if multiple persons are uploading to the same account. This is all I can think of, or maybe it's something to do with the account at the time. I don't know. But what usually works is just submit it from a different Google account, preferably running in incognito.
Oh,
All right,
okay.
just try a different Google account. Addison.
Sir, can you hear me?
Yeah, man, I can hear.
Can you check your email, please, when you're done, like with the class? I had issues with
Oh,
the entire
yes.
Illustrator upload thing, and every time I upload it, it's blank. Like my computer keeps crashing now at this point.
Yeah, I think I saw an email from you. I saw it in the notification, I think.
So that's fine. You can check it after class. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to do it on a different computer now and see what happens there.
Right. The main thing is to just put it in the comments when you're submitting the work. All right. All right. So we are coming up.
All the wallpaper.
Is that? Oh, okay. Remember to mute your mic, guys, when you're not using it. All right. So if we take a look on our schedule, we're at the 30th. So here we are. No, not 30th of October. Not yet. 30th of September. So we are on exercise 4. And well, we are supposed to be talking about understanding bit depth, but to tell you the truth, as it relates to the lecture, I have been spending a lot of time kind of going through image size with you guys. And I don't know if it's connecting, but we do have an exercise that is coming up. I didn't post. If you remember when we went through this, guys, so we talked about image size for the last couple of weeks. And we talked about the formula of how you can use image size. So we have a question that's coming up today, and it's going to be a class participation activity. And essentially, what we're going to do is we are going to answer a question. Now, this question, if I could find it in my mirror board, this question should be a question that everyone could answer. This one usually have double class participation points. I don't know if that sounds exciting to you or scary. Okay, let's see. By the way, is my background music too loud? I can't tell because I just listen it here on my end. Is it too loud for you guys on your end?
I can't even hear it.
Okay, good. All right, good. All right, because music helps the class to go down smoothly, at least for me. Okay, so we were looking for right. Yes. Okay. Let's locate this thing. me 1 sec. Let me bring this thing up. While I search this thing, just all right. Okay, guys. It should be, here we go. All right. So this is going to be your class activity, right? And it's supposed to be something that we should be able to work through, and then you're going to submit your answers, right? So here is your question. All right. So if you remember this formula that we gave you guys last time, right? This is to calculate the real world print height and real world print length. And remember, we gave this this guide, and this guide tells us what DPI we should consider based on the distance of graphic that we are producing, right? So for example, anything that is close to your face, we're going to be using a DPI of 500. And anything that is far, we're going to be using, a DPI of 300. And anything that is far, we can use, the DPI gets less the further away you go. So for example, viewing distance in meters. So obviously something that is very close. So something that is not even like 20 inches away, which is like a paper, we're going to be using 300 DPI. In this case, this actually, the source from this document is actually a blog that talks about how to choose DPI and viewing distances. So it's pretty cool. The link is there. You guys can check it out. But I've just kind of summarized it for us here, right? So basically, the closer you get, the higher the DPI. The further you get, the lesser the DPI. But this is like a guide that you can use, especially when it comes to printing, right? And if you remember how this question came about, I showed you this very expensive presentation that you guys, most of you will probably end up doing when you go to masters or even beyond. And it comprises of multiple sheets with different types of media, from floor plans to rendered images to photos. And each one of those, you have to know if what you're seeing on your computer screen can be printed at a particular size in real life. And to do that, we use this formula. So I have a question for you guys. Here goes the question. You are a CSA student preparing for your critique presentation. You design a sheet layout with 3 frames that will contain 3 items. This is your presentation sheet. It's 24 by 36, and it has 3 items. The first item is a rendered image from Lumion software. I think we know Lumion. We mentioned this earlier in the module when we spoke about Lumion, right? The next item is a photograph that's taken with a camera. And the next item is a floor plan that's created in AutoCAD. You plan to print your work on a 24 by 36-inch sheet and present it on a presentation board about 1.5 meters away from your audience. Using lessons learned from your lectures, determine the following. What is the estimated real-world print height and print width of the photo that can be produced from your camera phone based on the viewing distance? Now, what is your camera phone? Here is your camera phone. I know this is an old phone, but let's say this is the phone that you have. It has an 8.2 megapixel resolution, right? And it produces a resolution of Ultra HD. That is the phone that you have. So the question is, when you use that phone and snap a picture, what is the real world height and width of that picture that you're taking from your phone? That's the first part of the question. Davina, do you understand this question? Does it sound foreign or does it sound familiar? Are you here, Davina?
Sir, which question? The frame, position, camera?
The question, I put some space between this. The question is, hold on, let me. Right. The question is, what is the estimated real-world print height and print width of the photo that can be produced from your camera phone based on the distance viewed? And this is your camera phone. Let me copy this and I'm going to stick it right beside this question. So if this is your camera phone, these are the specs of the phone. It has an 8.2 megapixel resolution and it produces images at Ultra HD. Right? This Galaxy S8, which is actually the specs of the Galaxy S8, if you still have it. Right? And you go out and you take a picture with this phone and your intention is to print it as a part of your presentation. So I'm asking you, what is the real world height and width of the image that this phone can take? So that is the first question.
I know like the resolution is like 1080 by 1080, like the non-square resolution.
Right.
1080 by 1080.
Is that the size image that this phone can produce? (1080 by 1080?
Yes, sir.
How did you arrive at that answer?
Like square resolution is 1080 by 1080, and on my phone, it's like a square on the camera. So I'm just assuming if it's a square, it's 1080 by 1080.
Well, you know what they say about assuming, right? So we want to deal with calculations here. So let me ask Sidel, what is the resolution? Remember we spoke about resolution. So what is the what resolution does this phone produce? Are you there, Sidel?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
What resolution or how can what points to the resolution in this spec that's right in front of you?
The UHD, sir.
Okay, fine. That does part of it. What about the 8.2 megapixel? Do you remember what megapixel is?
The amount of pixels that is like the quality of the image.
And this is how we normally grade phones and cameras and like how much megapixel do you have. But what is megapixel? So 8.2 megapixels mean 8.2 million pixels. Megapixels is an area. It's an area measurement. So for example, I'm going to ask you a maths question. If the area of this square here, the area is 8.2. I'm not going to put any units there. It could be meter square, whatever square, but it's 8.2. If the area of this is 8.2, how can I find what this measurement and this measurement is? All I have is the area. How can I find what the lengths are? Anybody?
You have to find the square roots.
Aha! Find the square root. So if I find the square root of 8.2 million, actually, I'm not going to do this. You do this. You do it on your end. What's the answer?
Sorry, to repeat that question, please.
What is the square root of 8.2 million?
Million.
Because it's megapixel. 8.2 megapixels. So it's 8.2 million pixels.
Oh.
2.8 million, sir.
How much?
2.8.
All right. So what this means is let's get a smaller pen. That means that this is too big. That means that 2,863. Oops. Horrible handwriting. 63. This is called mouse writing, by the way, because I'm using the mouse. And then this is 2,863. Right. So if I multiply 2,863 by 2,863, I will get 8.2 million. So what this means is that if the phone says that it is 8 megapixels, it means that it can produce an image that has 2,000 pixels in the width and 2,800 and 2,800 on the height. Now, there is something else to consider when we're talking about cell phones, because the reason why this UHD is here is because any digital devices, they have what's called a ratio, right? So for example, you all have, anybody here has a Apple computer? Who is currently on an Apple computer? Or anybody have okay, right. So Gavin, you're on an Apple computer. What is the ratio of your monitor?
So 13
Not the size, but the ratio. Is it 5 by 3, 16 by 9, 10 by 10 by 6, 8. Oh, I don't remember that last one. But anyway, do you remember what ratio is your monitor? Like,
no, sir.
all right. Anybody have an iPad? Anybody is on an iPad now?
Me, sir.
All right. How long you have your iPad?
Like about a year now.
Do you love your iPad?
Yes. It's very useful.
So do you know all the specs of your iPad?
Not really. Not
Okay.
really.
I was about to ask you what's the
Just my words.
resolution. That's why.
I don't know, sir. Let me just Google it.
Exactly. And I want, who was it again? Gavin, is you have the Apple?
Yes.
Right. I want you to Google what is the resolution and the screen ratio of your Apple device. Let's type it in Google quick.
I think it's 4:3.
So your
Yes.
iPad,
Yes, 4:3.
your iPad is 4:3. And what resolution is it?
Resolution is 7032 times by 2048 pixels.
2048. Gavin, what about you? So this is for the iPad.
2560
2560 by?
2560 by 1600.
And what is the ratio?
So I don't see any rate.
You're not telling a ratio. Google it again. That wasn't a good Google. Google a better Google.
It's 16 to 10
Right. It's 16:10. Good job. All right. Now, for 90% of the rest of us here that probably have an Android or maybe a Windows computer, I'm just going to pick somebody random. So, Michele, are you here? Michaela? Are you trying to find the unmute
Sir?
button? What device are you on? Oh, I'm getting
I'm
some
using a
feedback.
Dell.
All right. What's the resolution of your screen and the ratio?
I have no idea. I'm going to it.
You're going to Google it.
Pardon?
Hold on. Turn down your volume, or the other people need to turn down. Nobody have earpods or headset, because I'm getting a lot of feedback. Right. What's the resolution and the ratio of your Dell? You're going to Google it. Hold on. Sort of need to mute his mic. Okay. Yes. So, yeah, Michaela, do you know what your resolution is?
Still looking, sir.
You still looking? All right. Now,
All right. It says 1920 by 1200.
1920 by 1200. Okay. So you actually have another 1610. All right, good. All right. So for anybody that has like another computer and maybe their resolution is, maybe it's advertised that anybody have a laptop there and there's a little sticker on the laptop and it say 2K or 4K. Anybody have that device there? Nobody? guys?
I'm going to check.
You're going to check. Okay, all right. What I'm getting at here is that different devices have different ratios, right? Another popular ratio that most computers have is where's my pen? Where's my pen? Where's my pen? Where's my pen? Right. Right. Is 16:9. And 16:9 is one of the most popular ratios that exist. Most televisions are 16:9. Most tablets and stuff like that have a ratio of 16:9. And the resolution in 16:9, a good example of that might be 1920 by 1080. 1080. Now, each one of these resolutions, right? Like imagine you walk into Courts or wherever, or you go on Amazon and you want to buy a new monitor, a new TV screen. You will notice you see these acronyms beside it. You see things like UHD, FHD, HD, QHD, and then some of them even have more complex things like QUHD, right? And each of these acronyms here, they tell you what the ratio and resolution is. So for example, if I ask you what is the resolution of your iPad, instead of telling me it's 2732 by 2048, you could just say, oh, it's UHD2 or QHD or whatever, right? Now there's a good chart of this. This is one of the very useful charts that exists. And this has all the standards going all the way to some ones that we never hear of yet. So for example, let's start with some of the popular ones. HD. Everybody knows HD. And we kind of throw that term around. So you buy a TV that says HD. HD means that it is 1280 by 720. Then there's this line that is here that tells you the ratio. So 1280 by 720 is a 16:9 ratio, right? For example, the monitor that I'm using here, right? Can you all see this monitor? Maybe.
Yes, sir.
Right. This monitor I'm using here is a ratio of 21:9. Now, oops. I'm destroying my disk. Right. So here is 21:9. So 21:9 has multiple resolutions. They have one that is 2560 by 1080. UW mean ultra wide HD. Then you have another one that says ultra wide quad HD, which is 3440 by 1440. Let's follow that list down. Then you have 5K ultra wide, which is 5120 by 2160. And there is even more. There's one oh, there's no more. Okay, yeah. I guess it don't make sense to have monitors bigger than that. Now, 21:9 means that it's really wide. So for example, when you guys go to the theater, when you go to Carib 5 and you watch a movie, most movie theaters, the screen is a 21:9 ratio. It's really wide. But what's the resolution? I mean, I don't know what the resolution is. I guess it varies depending on the movie, right? So the most popular ratio is 16:9. And along the 16:9 band, you have full HD, which is 1920 by 1080. That's the most popular resolution there. You also have 1600 by 900. You have 1366 by 768. You have 1280 by 720. So these are all resolutions, and they're all along the 16:9 ratio. Now there are other ratios. So for example, your iPad is 4:3. So on that 4:3 spectrum, you have QXGA, right? Which is 2048 by 1536. And then you have, 1600 by 1200. I think the iPad has, I don't remember what resolution you told me it was. And then each one of these have these acronyms that go with it. Now, most of the times, like QSXGA, I'm sure many of us have never seen a TV box that has QSXGA on it. We probably see a TV box that have 2K, FHD, we maybe see one that has UHD, and we see ones that say UHD2, right? Or then we see some that say 8K. Those are like the terribly expensive ones because it has some crazy resolutions there. So this diagram here helps you to know what these acronyms mean. And this actually comes from Wikipedia, so you guys can check it out on your own. So back to the question at hand. I was asking, what is the resolution of this camera? Now, we could do the mathematical way and find the square root, but the square root is going to tell us, it's going to give us a 1-to-1 ratio. It's not going to be 16:9 or it's not going to be 4:3. When you just do the square root of 8.2 million, you're going to get 2863 by 2863. Now, your phone screen is not 2863 by 2863. Your phone screen is actually 16:9, meaning the ratio is 16:9. Now, it did tell us that the resolution of the phone is a UHD1, and I don't see anybody else on this chart. I was going to ask you what's the resolution of a UHD1. So if we look here, we see that UHD1 is 3840 by 2160. So this is the resolution of the phone. All right. So the question asks, what is the estimated real-world print height and width of the photo that can be produced with the phone? All right. So the first thing we have to do is find out what the resolution is. So now we know what the resolution is because we see that it is UHD1. So, Jackson, how would we go about calculating the real world print height and print width?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Not sure. Okay, so let me write the resolution here. So, okay, let me leave this and UHD1. So here is UHD1. Okay. Janelle. No, it's Jenna Lee.
Yes, sir.
How would we go about working out what is the real world print height and print width?
The print height and print width, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Sir, don't you divide the resolution?
You just have to say the formula. You just have to say use the formula.
Oh, well, use the formula.
Exactly. So all we need to know is what is the length and divide that by the DPI. Now, what DPI are we going to use? Remember what the question says. It said that we plan to be, we're doing this for a critique where we plan to be 1.5 meters away from the audience. So based on the 1.5, what is the minimum DPI that we can use?
120, sir.
Exactly. So right away, we know that we divide the length by 120 and we get the real world length and the real world height. Now, I'm not going to work that out, and don't work it out because you guys are supposed to work that out. I'm simply just giving you how to go about answering the question. But it gets a little bit more challenging. So the next question is, which frame should you position the photo from your camera in? So you want to position the photo in the largest possible frame where it will not be blurry based on the resolution of pictures your phone can produce. So you have three areas here. You have frame A, you have frame B. Frame A is 14 by 20 and B is 11 by 10. So where should you position the photo? Should you put the photo in this frame or should you put the photo in this frame? And your objective is that you want to put the photo on your sheet and not make it blurry. Remember last week we spoke about why things get blurry. When we find out what the real print height is and we scale it up too much, then it can get blurry. So, Matteo, are you here? Are you here, Matteo? Or meet you? Going once, going twice? No? All right. What about Mikisha? Are you here, Mikisha? Mikisha? Okay. What about Nikai? Are you here, Nikai? Hold on. Where's everybody? Are people hiding?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I thought you were hiding, Nikai, because you don't want to answer the question. What question do you think I'm going to ask you?
It's 2 p.m.
How would you go about knowing where to position the photo? You don't have to tell me the answer. But how would you go about finding the answer?
Just use the formula and then find the DPI.
Use the formula and find it?
DPI.
Not quite. Not quite. Who wants to tell me the answer? Anybody want to give it a try? How would I go about?
Sir,
Fine.
give her one try.
All right, go for it. Go ahead. Don't tell me the answer. Just tell me how would you go about knowing where to position the photo, whether here or here.
After you calculate the real world width and height, sir, you can look for the frame that allows the smallest amount of scale.
All right. Excellent answer. Right. And when you do that, you know that you are putting the picture in the area that best matches the size. Because if you have to scale it up too much, once you start to scale beyond what the real world calculation tells you, it means that you are getting blurry. You know, but our eyes are not like mechanical eyes. So it's not as if you scale it up a little, if your brain will say, oh, that picture is blurry. So the general rule of thumb is that you don't want to, well, you try not to scale it, but if you have to, once you have to scale more than twice the image, you're going into blurry territory. Nevertheless, you always, if you want to keep the image as sharp as possible, whatever you get for that calculation, you try and use that. All right, after positioning the photo, the alternate slot will be used for your rendering. What resolution should you render your image generated from the Lumion software? Choose your answer from the image standard list. So, for example, when you go into the Lumion rendering software, it asks you, what resolution do you want to render your image? Now, nowadays, this doesn't matter because computers are fast and Lumion can get you an image. Lumion can get you a 4K image maybe in about 5 minutes, even like 7 minutes on the slowest computer. So a lot of us will just max it out. We'll say, give me a 8K, give me a 10K image and click render because you just want to be the biggest. But if you had to wait, like if you had to wait 4 hours to get an image, you wouldn't want to render an image that is either it's too big, so you basically wasted that time when you could have rendered it smaller, and you definitely don't want to render it too small, so when you have to now stretch it and it becomes blurry. So for example, if you're going to put your photo in this slot here, then you need to work out what resolution should you render at in Lumion. Like, what resolution should I choose? You can't just say a big resolution because big is relative. Like, based on where you're putting the poster, what resolution should you render at? Now, we're kind of out of time, so I'm not going to ask anybody else any more questions. But basically, you would need to reverse engineer the formula because you have the DPI and you have the real world height. So you can use those to get the pixels. And I hope you guys were paying attention in your math class, right? So if image over DPI gives you real world length, in this case, you want to find out what the pixels are, right? So carry it over the equal sign. Then you need to do what? You need to say real world print height multiply. Oops, my bad. You carry over the DPI because you have the DPI and you have the real world print height. So you say real world print height multiplied by the DPI would give me the resolution, right? So in this case, you would want to find out what resolution should you render at. Now, when you get the answer, you're not going to just, like, for example, you get 3128 by 180. You're going to look on your chart and find, because in Lumion, this is what you're going to see. You're going to say, okay, what do you want to render? 2K, UHD, WQHD, which one do you want to choose? You don't put in the values. I mean, you can, but you can just pick one of the standards. So you're going to find out which one of these standards are the closest to your answer. And that's how you work this out. My last question is, what file format should the AutoCAD plan drawing be saved as to be placed on the presentation board? Right? And we have different file formats, which I thought I had. Oh, here we go. Should it be JPEG, GIF, PNG? Should it be PDF? Should it be SVG? What file format should you export the floor plans on as to place on the drawing? So I want you to answer this question, and you're going to just click submit here. And it's basically multiple choice. So you're going to choose what's your answer here, choose which frame here, choose the answers for these, and submit. And you will see what your grade is pretty much immediately.
Sir, where is that class activity? It's in the
It's on the mirror board. So when you go
okay.
to right, so when you
Mirror
go
board.
to the class website, head over to the mirror board. I think there's also a link. I don't think I put it here. Okay, but yeah, just head over to the mirror board. I want you to use the mirror board because when you use the mirror board, you have all of these notes that you can use to help you to get the answer. All right. Okay, guys. So I'm hoping that all of the lessons that we've spoke about for the last couple of weeks about image size, that it has resonated and you're able to answer this question on your own, even though I've given you like the basic answers already, right? I also hope that you realize that a lot of these challenges is not just in a bubble. Like these are things that you're going to face during CSA, especially when you have to print. You're going to be doing a lot of that for the next couple of years. And I shouldn't see any blurry drawings coming from anybody that has done DDM. All right. So if I go in your history class and I see that you have a blurry poster, I'm free to tell your history teacher to deduct marks, right? On behalf of DDM. That sounds fair, right, Antonio? Silence means consent. Okay, good. All right. All right, guys. So we have exercise 4 today, and exercise 4 is going to be a mouthful. So I'm hoping everybody has your illustrator ready. Does everybody have their illustrator ready? I hope so.
No.
Not everybody. Not everybody. So exercise 4 is our second exercise in Illustrator. And it is the most important exercise, not because it is valued more grades, but it's because there's a lot of instances where you're going to use the lessons from exercise 4 during CSA, right? So it is definitely one of the most valuable. And then after this, we're going to move into InDesign, actually, right? So remember, we're only visiting these programs. We visit them and then we move on. So we already move on from Photoshop and we are about to finish Illustrator. So now we are going to go into the exercise for today.
All right, sir. Blessings.
Okay. Oh, it sounds like you're leaving. And you said blessings. All right. So I'm going to pull up the okay, here we go. Where is it? Yes. All right. So let's go. Okay, everyone. Welcome to exercise 4. And if we head on over to the website and we look under exercise 4,
We're
we
starting
can
the
see
exercise now,
here
sir.
that exercise. Yes, we're actually starting it now because it is a big one.
Oh,
Yes,
oh
it is a
wow.
big one. Yes. I
Wow.
don't want to leave it for the evening session because I don't want us to leave here at night. It's not big in terms of there's a lot to do. It's just big in terms of there's a lot to understand. And as I said, it's the most valuable for architecture as well. So I think if we start it half of it from now, we can get through the other half by the other class. All right. Most of this is kind of introductory. So I don't know if we'll get to where you actually jump into Illustrator and start to work on the exercise. But some of the things in here, you probably need to have Illustrator open to understand. All right, because we're going into a little bit more advanced in Illustrator now. Okay. 4 is about architectural presentations using Illustrator, right? So we're going to look on how do we do architectural presentations using Illustrator, right? And if you look at the examples on the handout, you can see
Sir, the video is kind of
this is a
low.
standard architectural. It's low in terms of volume?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. So it's my volume that is too high. Okay. Drawing. And it perhaps has a black background because perhaps most times we do architectural drawings, they are in AutoCAD and the background is usually black. So that's what this is representing here. And we want to look how to convert this into this. So if you look at your exercise files that we have available, you will see a bunch of images, mostly PDFs, of all kinds of architectural assets. Now what you'll be looking for, you're going to be needing a DWG file, right? And if I open this DWG file here, you will see that this is what the file looks like in AutoCAD. And I can, in the AutoCAD application, you might realize that there are tools that are similar to Illustrator. However, they're more geared towards architects and engineers. But notice that, like Illustrator, I can clearly see these lines here. I can select a line, I can move it around, you know. But notice how there is no precision because there is no measurements and dimensions. And these are things that we are all familiar with architectural drawings. So the idea is we want to not show the drawing as construction drawings, but rather to use this same method used to create construction drawings as working drawings. So what you'll notice is when you save an AutoCAD file, it saves as a DWG file, and that DWG file is able to be read in Illustrator. All right, so therefore we're going to open Illustrator now, and we're going to go to open, and we're going to browse for the location of this DWG file that we see here. Here we go. And I'm going to open this like that. Now your Illustrator should bring up this option here to read the DWG file. And you're going to leave it on the default, which should be scaled to fit artboard. We're going to choose OK. Ignore. Yes, so we are actually going into the exercise from now. All right, guys. So,
Sir, can you repeat what you just did there, please?
right. So I imported in the exercise files, there is a DWG file. And I imported that into Illustrator. All right. Now we. Okay.
Sir, you can give me a minute. Let me just get the exercise files, please.
Okay, go ahead and get the exercise files.
Sir?
Also remember that we are recording the class as well. So you will also have the recording. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was about to ask that if I could get the video because I'm going to download Illustrator on my other computer.
Sure. Right. So that's what I'm saying, guys. Even if the video leaves you behind, remember we do have the morning session and the evening session. So you can kind of catch up. I know you have a class after this though, but after that class, you can kind of catch up with where we are so far. All right?
Okay.
Right. Because then if we wait here, when you rewatch the video, you're gonna have to wait again. So all right, let's go. Ignore the messages and just choose OK to open. Now once the file is open, this is what you should have. Now notice when you hover over these lines, the same lines that you noticed coming from AutoCAD is now in Illustrator. Now you might notice that these lines are a bit thick though, And that's just because the way how Illustrator has interpreted the line weight, right? Okay, now also notice the elevations and notice how all of these are individual lines, right? And this is because Illustrator is able to read the vector information from that DWG file. Okay, so now what we're going to do before we do anything else is we need to fix these line weights. Now, if you remember from the previous class, we do have the stroke panel, which allows us to manipulate individual lines. Now, the first thing we want to do is we want to change all these lines to black. So we're going to select. So remember, guys, that a lot of the things that are being done in this exercise is already assuming that you have done the first exercise. So in the first exercise, we discussed what are strokes, what are fills, all the things you needed to know to do that exercise. So if you haven't completed that other exercise, I would say definitely complete that before tackling this one, because it's not going to go in detail in some of these things. It's, you know, going to assume that you already watched the last video.
Sure, quick question. When you import the DWG file, do you scale to fit artboard or just use the original size?
Scale to fit artboard.
Ah.
We're going to select everything. And notice when we select all the lines in our drawing, if we take a look at what this is saying here, it is not able to tell us what stroke and what fill we have selected, right? Notice that there. However, if I selected, let's zoom in here. If I selected one line, like maybe this cyan line here, it's able to tell me that I have a cyan line selected. However, if I select multiple lines, it's going to give me a question mark, and that is because it has multiple lines selected and it's not able to display multiple lines here. Now, the first thing we're going to do before we change all these lines to one color is we need to get ourselves organized. Now, if you look on your layers tab, notice that you have some pre-made layers. And funny thing, these layers were actually interpreted from the AutoCAD application. If I go over to AutoCAD application and I look on my layers, notice that these layers here, the short for annotate, appliances, details, dimensions, and now these layers are actually now interpreted with Illustrator. So that this tells us that Illustrator is able to read DWG files and to translate the information from it into Illustrator. Now, the first thing we want to do is get a little bit more organized with our text. And notice that the text has also been interpreted. We can use the text tool and be able to highlight this text, and we can modify it. However, what we want to do is to put all text objects on one layer. Notice we don't have a layer for text objects here. Now, in order to do that, we could manually select each object here and then create a new layer to put them on. And to do that, well, let's do one first. So I'm going to select this balcony thing here, and I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to call this new layer text. Now, of course, if I wanted to put this on this layer, I could search for it here in this list and drag it to that new layer, but that might be a little bit ergonomically difficult. So what I suggest you do is to click on the word on the layer, right click on the object that you want to go to that layer, and then you're going to go to arrange and send to current layer, and the current layer you have selected is text. So when you do that, it will go over to that layer, and surely enough, if I turn it on and off, you will see that is now there. Now we have many other text to select here, but rather than individually selecting them, we also have text over here. rather than individually selecting them, what I want you to do is to go to select object, and then say all text objects. So that's under select object, and then you go to all text objects. And once you do that, it's going to automatically select all text objects in the drawing. When it does that, we can now put everything over to the text layer here. Now, funny thing, an important thing to notice, when I right click and I say, okay, now I want to go to arrange and send to current layer, you might notice send to current layer is currently grayed out, and you might be wondering, why is that? Now, the reason for that is that there is one text object that is already on the text layer. So, you know, Illustrator is saying that, well, you can't send something on a layer to itself. So what you want to do is to deselect this singular text that we already had placed on the text layer. So again, when you select all the text, you want to deselect the one that we already placed on the text layer, and you do that by holding Shift and clicking on the text there. All the other text is still selected, and now when you highlight the text layer and then you right click on any one of the text, you should see now send to current layer. Now once you do that, now you'll be confident that all the text in the drawing is now on one layer. We can actually turn that off or on. So that is great. So now that we have the text organized, next we want to get organized with our line weights, right? We definitely want the lines to be in the same color, and we want all the line weights to be a reasonable width. Most of these widths are quite thick and some are thin. So what we're going to do first is we're going to select everything here, and we're going to go to stroke. So ensure that you have highlighted the stroke here, and this is a key point that I want us to know. When you notice that the stroke has the question mark now, that is telling us that we have a multitude of strokes that's currently selected. Now when you do this, you want to ensure that your text layer is off, because we don't want to be adding a stroke to our text layer. All right, so make sure that that layer is off. So when you select everything on all the layers, when you select all the objects on your artboard, you're going to now go to color, and then what you're going to do is recolor all the strokes with black. And you can see that the black button that's right here. Now you need to ensure that you have the stroke that's currently activated on top, right? Because you're applying black to all strokes. Now once you do that, there you go, and you deselect, now everything will currently be black, right? So if I look around here, you will see that all these drawings are black. Now of course we have an issue. The line weight is still a major issue. So what we want to do is make all the line weight one singular line weight, and we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to select all the line work here, and this time we're going to head over to our stroke panel, and in our stroke panel we can adjust the line weight right there. So we want to put our line weight to perhaps, let's try 0.25, right, and that is looking a little bit more reasonable perhaps. As a matter of fact, that may be a bit too thick, so let's select everything and let's go to 0.2. All right, let's try 0.5. There we go. Yeah, definitely too thick, so we want to use a stroke of 0.15. Now this is a bit more workable. You can see that we can see all the window frames here. We can pick up all of these details here. And we do have some unwanted lines like this line here that has now reared its ugly head. Now before we go into cleaning up those lines, we need to now turn on our text layer. So we're going to make sure that our text layer is on. And you can see that our text layer still has the color, that is the blue applied to it. So let us also change that to black. So to do that, we're going to select the little round symbol here, and that will select all text. Now for text, we don't want to change the stroke. Instead, we want to change the fill color of the text, right? So you're going to ensure that you need to ensure that your stroke, your fill is highlighted here. And notice you also get a question mark here because it's selecting multiple different fills. So we're going to change all of those fills to one color again. So we're going to select the black color here, here or here, anyone. All right, great. So now if we should look around on our text layer, we'll see that it is now black. All right, so we are getting somewhere. So what we want to do now is kind of position this in place. So we want to have two artboards. One artboard will be for the elevation and another artboard will be for the plan. So to do that, we're going to go to the artboard tool that's located right here. And once we go into artboard mode, notice that the artboard now becomes highlighted. We can see the name of the artboard for those who have, I think it's 2018 and up. And we can also see the name of the artboard up here. We can also see the size of the artboard, right? And if you remember how Illustrator works, whatever we have selected, we're getting the properties for it on our bar up top, all right? So what we want to do now is we want to create another artboard. So we want to click the plus button that's right here. And you will see another artboard will be created. Now when that artboard is created, what we want to do is select our plan and we want to move this over. Now when you're moving Illustrator content, you want to grab the actual line. If you try to grab in the middle, you're not going to be pulling anything. You have to hold on to an actual line content because this drawing has no fill. So we're going to grab that and we're going to put it roughly in the center of the page. And we're going to do the same thing for the elevation. We're going to put it roughly in the center of the page here. Then we're going to use our artboard tool again. And what we want to do is we want to name our artboard. So we want to name this artboard elevation. And we want to name this artboard or plan, floor plan. Great. So now we are a bit more organized in how we're going to do our coloring. Now the first thing we want to do is try to get our elevations to look a bit more vibrant. So what we're going to do now is to start to clean up the elevations, right? So we're gonna, so for example, this line that's here, we're gonna remove that line there. And of course we can use our direct selection tool, which allows us to select individual lines. There we go. So we're going to remove that, and we basically want to clean up the drawing. So we want to remove that line there, this one, and these are just hidden lines that came over as a result of importing a DWG file. All right, great. All right, so once our line work is all cleaned up, at this point it would be a good idea to save your work. So I'm going to save my work as exercise 4. And I'm going to make sure I'm saving it as an Illustrator file. And Illustrator will usually give this option. And when it gives this option, what it is saying is, well, you just choose your version of Illustrator. And this option here, create a PDF compatible file, this is basically enabling the option for the Illustrator file to be opened directly in a PDF application. So we're going to make sure those two options are on, and we're going to choose OK. All right, now Illustrator 2020 has a file recovery option. I believe it saves every 5 to 10 minutes. So if you lose your work, you should be able to get it back. However, we don't want to depend on that. So we want to save as often as we can, right? All right, so now that we have this selected here, now that we have our plans a bit more organized, let us manipulate some of our line work. So we know that we want perhaps this line being the ground line to be a bit brighter, right? So we have more than one option. So what we could do is select all the lines along this edge here and make it thicker. But to make life a bit easier, it would be much easier to trace on top of this line with a much thicker line representing our floor plan. Now, when you're tracing lines on top of lines in Illustrator, things get a little tricky. And I'll show you why if I select the pen tool here. And let's say I wanted to draw a line over this line here. Once I hover over this point here with the pen tool, it is going to want to add the line here and merge it with this line, and that's not what you might want to happen. So in order to be able to trace and to enhance some of our line work, we need to get a little bit organized with our layers so that we can control how we do that. So first thing we want to do is let us select our elevation. Well, let's turn off the text layer. There we go. We're going to select all of our elevation, and we're going to put that on a new layer, and we're going to call that elevation. So we're going to create a new layer, and our new layer is located here. New layer button. And when it created the new layer, we want to call this elevation drawing. Great. So now we need to highlight the layer, right click, and say move to new layer. So now we can turn the elevation on or off, depending. I think I might have made an error there. Hold on. There we go. There we go. Right. So now we can turn the layer on or off as we please. Now, one of the reasons for doing this is we actually want to lock this layer. So I'm going to lock the elevation drawing layer. And I'm going to use my pen tool now. Let's create a new layer, and I'll call it updated line work. There we go. Call it updated line work. Now this layer we want to be on top of the elevation drawing layer. And what we're going to do on this updated line work layer is to kind of fix up some of our line work so that our drawing reads a bit more nicer. So I'm going to get my pen tool, and I'm going to make sure that the elevation layer is locked. All right, that's important because when we draw on our updated line layer, we don't want it to be merging or messing with that elevation drawing layer. So I'm just going to trace this over here, and what I'm doing is just tracing over the lines. Now Illustrator has the ability to snap to anchors, but I mean we're going to make this line really thick, so if it doesn't 100% snap, it should be fine. There we go. Press escape. I'm going to use my selection tool so I can see that that is the line that I've drawn. And then what I'm going to do is now I'm going to make this line thicker. So I'm going to go to my stroke tool, and I'm going to perhaps make this line about 0.5, probably 0.8. actually, let me fix up my stroke and fill here. So I want to ensure that I'm on my stroke. All right, you need to make sure that. So your stroke is highlighted. And I want to make the stroke 0.8. Maybe let's try making it 1. 1 is actually, yeah, there we go. So we have a nice, strong baseline there, as you can see. All right. I might have left off a section here, so I'm going to just use my pen tool and continue this line out there like that. There we go. All right. Now we can use this method to kind of enhance other lines, but pretty much this is good enough. All right. Now what we're going to do is use a feature to color our drawing here. All right. Now, before we go any further, I want to kind of touch base with, to use the rest of the time to kind of touch base with those of you who are currently working on this, because what happened is that Illustrator, when we start to do these complicated things, can get a little finicky and some of us might be having some challenges. Is there anybody here that have any questions? I think we're making good time. So before we continue with the other part of this, anybody here having some questions or any challenges with manipulating this drawing? Any questions so far?
Well,
Ye-
only
yes.
question for me, sir, is I didn't catch when you removed the hidden lines from the brick wall.
The hidden lines from the brick wall.
Yeah,
You
like when
mean you mean the lines that fall behind the stone here?
yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So remember from Illustrator, I realized that I keep forgetting that we didn't really have an Illustrator introduction class. But the video is there, but still, there are just some unique things about Illustrator. So one of the first thing is, if you're using a newer version of Illustrator, you probably have this properties panel here, which if you rather use this, then that's okay. But if you notice in the tutorial, I have my properties panel is at the top. And I think they changed that and created a properties panel. So if you want it to look like mine, you can go to window and go to control and just turn that on, and then you get these up top, which is essentially what is in your properties panel, but it was just classically known to be up here. So I'm going to use it up top here. So let me just go through and then get to the part with the hidden line where you had the question. While I do that, who else was it? Was it Gifford? You had a question as well?
Yes, sir. After you import the file, what you do?
Right. So after I imported the file, I started
So you
to
go
put
to
them on layers.
type or something like that.
Right. So I started to put them on layers, and then I made everything one color and one line weight, because when I import this DWG file, it imports the line weight and the colors from CAD, which is these, weird colors of red and green and so forth. So in order to put them on different layers, what I want to do is to put all the text on one layer and then put all the line on another layer. Because, for example, when I select, let's say I select this line work and I want to edit this line, I can pull this out. Right, I can use here to determine what my stroke is and what my fill is. But when I click on a text, I don't want it to have a stroke, because it's going to have an outer line. So for example, if I click this, if I click here and I give it a color, it's going to have an outer stroke. I want to only change the fill. So it is mainly because of that why I chose, and just to keep your drawing organized, why I chose to know, the first thing I did is to put the drawing on layers. So in order to do that, I could go through and select all the text, hold shift and select every text object one at a time. But that's going to take too long. I mean, I could wait and do it here, but if you had a more complicated plans with, I don't know, hundreds of names, that wouldn't work. So the more efficient way to do this is to go to select at the top. And then under select, I want to select all objects that are text. And I choose that. And then Illustrator automatically selects all the text in my drawings, which is great because now I can just create a layer by choosing the new layer icon, which is here. And I can just call it text. And I can just right click and say, I need to be on the select tool. Yeah, I can just right click and say arrange, send to current layer, which is now the text layer. And I can turn that on or off if I wanted to. Right. The next thing I did was to select everything here and just change the color. So when I select everything, it's all sorts of different colors. But so Illustrator represents that as a question mark because it doesn't know what color you selected when you selected the whole thing. So so what I chose to do is to just select everything and make it black. And there you go, everything is black. Then the next thing I changed was the line weight. So again, I selected everything and I can do it from up here if I wanted to. I can change my line weight to 0.25. And I think 0.25 is good. It works because now I can see all the line work that's there. Now the question about the hidden line, now that I start to see these hidden lines here, remember Illustrator has these two methods of selection. The white arrow selects individual points and the empty arrow selects individual objects. So in order for me to select this one line here, if I use the empty arrow, it's going to select the entire object. But if I want to select the points that make up this object, I need to use the white line. And that's how I selected this singular line and delete. This singular line, delete. All right, guys. All right, who else is working on this and they need some, and they have any questions? Anybody else?
Me, sir. I just turn everything black, but the line weight, how can I fix that? Not where you were before the video, just like right now you explain it. Yeah, after you select all the lines and turn them black, how do you move from that?
Okay, so in order to control everything that has to do with your lines, in Illustrator, lines are known as strokes, right? Which is why here in this tab, this represents strokes and this represents fills. So in Illustrator, lines are known as strokes, and then there is a panel that's called our stroke panel. Which did they change the name of this panel or did they move it somewhere? Is there more? No. Oh, there is more. Oh, I didn't even see an arrow down here. Right. So it's called a stroke panel. Right. So this is what the stroke panel looks like. And this is where you go to primarily set your line weight. And what I did was to expand it to show all options. So this is all the possible things that you could ever do with a line in Illustrator, including changing the line weight. So if I want to now change the line weight, all I have to do is select all of my line work. So everything here. And then I just change that so I can make it big or huge, or I can make it tiny, or I can even make them be dashed lines. See, I can make them with dash lines, like small dash lines, like that. I can change the length of the dashes. Oops. I can change, okay, this is, every time I click in here, it moves. Yeah, I can change the length of the dashes. I can let the lines be arrows. I can even change the line, the profile of the lines to be like, well, you can't really see it here, but to make them kind of, look like that. So anyway, the point is that this is where you would go to change the line weight of all the lines that you have selected. And not just the line weight, but everything that has to do with lines. All right?
So, sir, when you like the elevation layer, right, sir?
Mm-hmm.
How you go about putting the ground line? Like, it's like, I don't know if you can still add a line to the layer when
Right.
it's long.
So what I did, let me change this back. Let me turn off dash line. Yeah. So what I did here, I just drew on top of this with a line, meaning I just use my pen to, hold on. Let me, instead of zooming, I'm going to change the resolution of my screen so that you can see the icons a little bit clearer. Not the resolution, the DPI of my screen.
So which layer should I draw the line in, sir?
All right, here we go. I'm about to show you.
Okay.
All right. You can see the icons a little clearer now, right? Hopefully. Right. So what I did was I just used the pen tool, and just like how you can draw a line anywhere. So for example, I'm now drawing a line here. Let's make this line a little thicker so you can see it. Right. So I drew this line randomly, just anywhere. And that's what I did. I went to my pen tool and I drew a line for the ground. Now, the trick is that once you're on the pen tool, once Illustrator detects that you are hovering over a line, it's going to try to attach to that line. And this is why I chose to draw it on a separate layer. Because if I go for the pen tool now, and I try to start to draw here, notice that Illustrator is giving me this little symbol here. If I move away from it, notice it changes to an asterisk. And the asterisk means that it's going to draw a new line. But when I hover over an existing line, it changes to a dash, which means that it's going to try and add to that line. So I don't want it to do that. And this is why I said, okay, then I'm going to select my elevation and I'm going to create a new layer and just call it elevation. Oops, what did I press? All right. And I'm going to call it elevation. And I'm just going to say arrange, send to current layer. So I've sent everything to this elevation layer. So now what I'm going to do is lock that layer by clicking here and pressing this little lock icon here. Now that the layer is locked, when I go for my pen tool, well, I can't draw on a lock layer, so I need to be on a new layer. So let me create a new layer, and I'll just call this ground line. Right. So now when I draw now, notice when I hover over this line, Illustrator is not gonna like try to attach to it or anything because it's on a layer that is locked. So I'm simply just drawing on a layer on top, and I'm using a thin a thicker line like this. And all I'm doing is just tracing. And the good thing is that I can snap to this line if I really want to. But if I didn't have it on a lock layer, then Illustrator would try and like attach the line and all that stuff. So that's all I'm really doing. I'm just drawing on top of this line. And as I said, this stuff is super important, guys, because you are going to have drawings. Like I hope you can already imagine that. Let's say you do some drawings and you have an elevation. Maybe you did it in Revit or maybe you did it in SketchUp. But in Illustrator, maybe you need to enhance the line work a little bit, or you need to add some people or add some stuff. You're going to need to learn how to manipulate Illustrator in an architectural way. All right. And this is exactly what we're focusing on in this exercise. All right. Any other questions of how we read so far?
This is where we're currently at, right, sir?
Yeah, this is where we're currently at. So we're going to continue from this in the evening session. So I want everybody to be at this point. And what I'm going to try and do is I'm just going to try and upload this video quickly so that in case, your Illustrator giving trouble or whatever, you can just watch this video and get caught up. And then when you come to the evening session now, we're going to continue from this and learn how we add colors. And especially colors, Illustrator has some real superpowers when it comes to colors. I'm really excited to show you guys about that because it's like revolutionary for a lot of persons. Some persons just open Illustrator to just pick colors, even if they're doing stuff that don't have nothing to do with Illustrator. Like if you want to know what color shirt you should wear today, you could literally open Illustrator, and the way how they lay out their color selection tools, you could literally use that to choose the clothes you're going to wear every day. It's like that good.
Sir?
Yeah.
I have a question. How can I send a drawing to a new layer?
To a new layer, what you do is you just select the drawing, then you choose what layer you want it to go on over here. You need to now right click any element that you selected. Just right click any element. Make sure you're on the select tool. So you right click any element and say arrange, send to current layer.
Oh, okay. So I can delete this elevation from here now.
Right. So you can put right. So you can put like all the elevation on one layer. Right, if you want to. Okay, guys, I know that you have a class directly after this, so I want to try and give you some breathing room. Right? So just pause where you are. I will try to put this video up in the next 15 minutes or so. And then we will continue in the evening.
All right, thank you, sir. See you afternoon.
All right, see you later.
Sir, can you please check your camera?
Check the messages.
Yes.
Okay. Ah. Okay. Okay. All right. Just put it in the comments whenever you submit the work. All right.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay.
Could I get your email as well?
Can you get a what?
Your email.
Sure. But remember, you don't send work to the email, right? Always use the forms.
Okay.
But I can give you I'm still waiting on UTech to set up my my UTech email. So for now, I'll just give you my personal email.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Right.
30 minutes of it, I'm going to go to the book.